Chapter 2. Learn to see the big picture. Get your priorities right. I dare you to think bigger, to act bigger, and to be bigger. I promise you a richer, more exciting life if you do. William Danforth. A single thought, if cultivated, grows over time into the empowering habit of big picture thinking. This eventually takes over this person's psychology and propels him towards achieving his objectives. That's why big picture thinking is vital to leading a successful life. Seeing the big picture means not getting so caught up in the details that you lose sight of where you are going. The stonecutter story exemplifies why it is important to be a big picture thinker. Once upon a time there was a stonecutter. Every day he went into the mountains to cut stones from the rocks. While working, the stonecutter always sang merrily. He was happy with his life. He had plenty to eat and no worries. One day, he had to drop a load of stones at a villa owned by a very wealthy man. When he saw the beautiful house, a crushing sadness descended upon him. For the first time in his life he yearned to be rich. He sighed. "Wouldn't I love to own this beautiful home and have loads of money?" he said. "Then I wouldn't have to sweat to earn my keep." The stonecutter was amazed to hear a voice say, "Your wish is granted. From now on, you will get what you wish for." Naturally, the stonecutter was shocked and skeptical. Had he been dreaming? When he arrived home that afternoon, he saw a beautiful villa on the spot where his old hut had been. Delighted, the now wealthy stonecutter gave up working. He started to live the high life. One muggy afternoon he looked out the window. The king drove by in his magnificent carriage. Without thinking, the stonecutter said to himself, "I would love to be the king. Then I would ride about in that cool carriage." Instantly, his wish was granted. However, riding in that cool carriage was a lot hotter than he had expected. He looked out the window, surprised by the intensity of the sun's rays. It was so hot that the sun seemed to be burning right through the carriage's thick walls. "If I were the sun," he sighed, "I'd do things differently." Once again his wish came true. He now sent waves of heat into the universe. For a while he had no more wishes. But one rainy day when he tried in vain to break through a thick blanket of cloud, the stonecutter wished to be a cloud with the power to stop the sun. So he became a cloud. Then, he turned into rain. He fell on the earth and flowed down a hill. But, a massive boulder forced him to go a different way. "What?" he raged. "Is a rock like this more powerful than I am? Fine. Then I wish to be a rock." Instantly, there he was, on the mountainside, being a rock. He hardly had time to rejoice about his new shape, when he suddenly heard a cracking sound coming from somewhere below. He looked down. To his great horror, he saw a stonecutter hacking pieces off him. "What? That man is stronger than I am?" So he turned back into a stonecutter. Once more, he went into the mountains hewing stone, under the hot sun and in the pouring rain, always with a song on his lips. He was happy with what he had and what he was. This story is not about being content with what you have, it is about viewing the bigger picture before you proceed. In business as in life, seeing the consequences of our decisions and how they affect the whole picture is important. Seeing the big picture involves seeing how things connect and how one thing affects another. If you hope to succeed as an entrepreneur, you have to develop a feeling for who your stakeholders are and figure out how to make them all winners. Whenever you make a decision, it should be a positive one for your clients. Some people are natural big picture thinkers. Others have to learn this skill. The direct opposite of a big picture person is a details thinker. This is not a right-wrong spectrum. There is a time and need for both. The big picture people tend to be creative, strategic, and visionary. The downside is that they can also be messy, disorganized, and forgetful. Details thinkers get lost in the minutiae. They are often criticized for lacking common sense, failing to prioritize, or overlooking cause-effect. For example, details people study well for multiple choice tests because they have a keen attention to detail and have a great memory for details. They do poorly on theme, main idea, and essay questions because they miss the larger picture. Having a general idea of what the consequences of your decisions would be is a key principle of being happy. Details people are conscientious, exacting, and meticulous. They are planners. However, details persons can't see the forest for the trees. They lose, or lack, perspective. They cannot put things in priority. Big picture thinkers and details people often complement each other. They work well together, or drive one another crazy. Often a company CEO is a big picture person while the COO and the CFO are the details people. It's a natural match. Each has character traits which their job description requires. Sometimes, it is not this simple in work or in life. The demands of work and home most likely demand both skills. Most people are naturally better at one than the other. A lucky few do both equally well. Whether you have good attention to detail or whether you can see the big picture easily and clearly is generally a big part of your personality. However, big picture thinking can be learned and used when needed. Big picture thinkers see complex patterns and cause-effect relationships. They are energized by new projects and new challenges. Big picture thinkers have a low tolerance for boring, repetitive tasks. They abhor busy work, paper reporting, and filling out forms. They are great at seeing what needs to be done but fuzzy or unconcerned about the steps required to arrive there. How to become a big picture thinker. 1. Take time to think. We get so caught up in the demands of work of our lives that we seldom give ourselves time for thinking. You need to allow yourself time to percolate. If you go from one must do to the next, you never get time to step back and consider the whole thing. Instead of dashing madly from one urgent task to another putting out fires, set aside a block of time each day when you are most creative for thinking. For ladies, if you enjoy cooking, you can leave your cell phone in the bedroom while cooking and use your cooking time to think. TV time can never be thinking time. Married people reading this book will agree with me that many a time when you spend time talking things over with your spouse and thinking, you will discover how much you didn't think about in your busy day-to-day work. Taking time to think things over with no distractions at the time of thinking has helped my husband and I achieve a lot. Enjoy problem solving. Big picture thinkers see a problem as a challenge waiting to be solved. They are energized by the prospect. 2. Discover the benefits of brainstorming. Thinking alone, we often reach stumbling blocks. Great ideas often bubble up through brainstorming or talking about ideas with another person with whom you can share ideas and combine thoughts. 3. Select specific goals. This is where you sift through your big picture thinking to arrive at a handful of specific goals. Next, it is time to make these into actionable statements. For example, if you want to renovate your house or redesign a product at work, break this down into more specific actions and establish a timeline. For example, I want to write a draft for the product roadmap over the next 2 years. Break this into specific steps. By December 31st, I am trying to proofread this book before the publishing. Since the book is almost 200 pages, I am trying to proofread 40 pages every day for the next 5 days. Big picture questions are often broad and the task seems insurmountable. Decompose the big picture question into smaller manageable pieces that feel doable. Identify a specific problem. Generate several solutions. The problem: ineffective communication in the workplace. Solutions: establish a mentorship process for sharing. 4. Make bold big decisions. Big picture thinkers are not afraid to make a decision and are willing to go against the flow of conformity to do so. 5. Solution-oriented. Big picture thinking big is about finding solutions, answers, and ideas that will break down the walls that are standing in your way of solving the problem. It involves asking effective questions that will expand the possibilities and open up alternative perspectives that we never considered before. 6. Take calculated risks. In order to solve problems, big picture thinkers are risk takers. But they do not jump in impetuously. They do their homework first. 7. Identify first steps. Often a big picture idea doesn't get off the ground because no one defines what should happen first. If the goal is big, procrastination on tackling it often occurs. It is critical to choose the first steps. It might be as simple as doing a Google search or inventorying what is already on hand or collecting documents related to the issue or forming a discussion group. If you don't know where you're going, you will usually end up somewhere else. 8. Research. Before big picture thinkers reach a solution or arrive at a decision, they do the research. Big picture thinkers are efficient researchers, amassing the data, sifting through it, analyzing and synthesizing the information to reach a solution. In my many years in business, I have realized the importance of research. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Hosea chapter 4 verse 6 applies not only to the knowledge of the Word of God, but also to the knowledge of how to solve problems around us. A simple example is when I needed to take a loan. Because of my limited knowledge on the availability of loans for business, I took a choking loan with so much interest. After I had paid off that loan through my nose, I discovered an easier loan. I beat myself at how much I lost just because I did not do enough research. Big picture thinkers are not afraid to make decisions, because they know that achieving big goals involves making one decision at a time. 9. Be forward thinking. Big picture thinking demands forward thinking. Big picture thinkers are always several steps ahead, several moves in advance and many years into the future. 10. Step outside your comfort zone. Big picture thinkers are risk takers who can think outside the box. They use the following techniques. Guided visualization. See yourself solving the problem. Visioning. What will it look like when my goal is achieved? Well, duh. The answer was right there all along. How could I have missed this? Council of Heroes. Imagine yourself sitting in a room with the great minds of all time solving this problem. Clearing up assumptions. What assumptions are you and your team implicitly making about the problem? Ask yourself, what would happen if this assumption was removed? Removing assumptions can free up your mind to see the bigger picture. Bird's eye view. Every team brings a unique perspective to the problem. How can your team's lens reshape the solution to this problem? What are the relevant ways in which your team thinks differently? How is it useful? Get into the habit of thinking big. Incorporate the habit of big picture thinking into every part of your life. Think big about daily tasks, routines, projects, and goals. Your contributions to making the world better. Your ability to think creatively, outside the box. Your capacity for problem solving, critical thinking, analysis, and synthesis. Your capacity to value others. Your ability to overcome obstacles and challenges. Your capacity to imagine the possibilities. Your life's purpose and aims. 11. Know strengths and talents. Big picture thinkers take into account their personal strengths, talents, and abilities. The idea they conceptualize makes use of their strong attributes and talents. Make the most use of your talents, capitalize on your strengths, and when you need to delegate, do not hesitate to do so. 12. Motivation and dedication. Big picture thinkers are highly motivated to solve problems and achieve goals. They have a high degree of dedication to their cause. They will spare no effort to bring their ideas to fruition. They will only discuss their goals with individuals who have the same motivating spirit as they do. 13. See things from all angles. Big picture thinkers consistently reframe their problems. They expand the possibilities and perspectives, twisting their view of the problem in a creative way to help them brainstorm better ideas and solutions. 14. Unshakable belief. Because you have sifted the assumptions and have given enough time to thinking, big picture thinking involves unwavering belief in yourself and your ideas. When I started my business, I did not make a dime for 12 months. I used my hard-earned night shift nursing paychecks to fund my business, but I kept going because I knew what lay ahead. 15. Surround themselves with other big picture thinkers. Big picture thinkers associate with other big picture thinkers. They thrive on the ambitions, motivation, and inspiration of others to think bigger than they ever imagined possible. Things that impede big picture thinking. Inflexibility. We've always done it this way. Inflexible thinking is like wearing blinders. You see only a part of the whole picture and refuse to consider other alternatives to the status quo. Limiting ideas. It won't work. Yes, trying new things is messy and it might not work, but how will you know unless you take a risk and try it? Lack of self-confidence. I can't do it. You won't know until you try. Unless the attempt is life-threatening or financially disastrous, what's the real harm? If you succeed, others will be encouraged to try new things and your self-confidence will receive a boost. Conformity. People will think I am nuts. President John F. Kennedy noted, "Conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth." Without people to buck the system, where would we be today? Non-conformists like Rosa Parks, Nelson Mandela, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., Walt Disney weren't afraid of what people would say or think about their ideas. Bette Midler identifies a problem in conformity. Group conformity scares the pants off me because it's so often a prelude to cruelty towards anyone who doesn't want to or can't join the big parade. Procrastination. I'll get around to it someday. Transfixed by fear of failure, perfectionists delay things. Those lacking self-confidence are afraid they won't be up to the task. Consequently, procrastinators derail projects, disappoint their bosses, and irritate their coworkers who need that piece of the puzzle. Short-sighted thinking. I don't know how to get it started. In his book, Long-Term Thinking for a Short-Sighted World, Jim Brum states, "In today's world, we are grappling at every turn with an increasing energy shortage, food production systems that struggle to feed increasing millions, environmental problems that threaten our survival, a debt crisis that is crippling individuals and governments, and so much more." All of these problems come with their own unique challenges, and examined on their own, they may seem completely different from each other, but they share one common, rarely discussed hidden thread that runs through the center of each and binds them together: a lack of long-term thinking. We're very bad long-term thinkers. Negative thinking. It'll never fly, Orville. If Orville Wright and thousands of other inventors had given up because others were pessimists, we would have been deprived of all sorts of things we take for granted, like electricity, airplanes, pacemakers, open heart surgery, and cochlear implants. Negative thinking is an obstacle to improvement. Any change feels impossible. Negative thinkers can't see the small steps to reaching a big ending. Negative thinkers lack the energy and motivation to take big steps. They feel stuck. They cannot envision that in order to eat the elephant, you do it one spoonful at a time. Excuses. I don't have the materials. You can always make excuses to avoid doing something. George Washington Carver observed, 99% of the failures come from people who have the habit of making excuses. It is easy to make excuses as a crutch. Carlos Santana pointed out that excuses are a great deflect for not changing destructive habits. Most people don't have that willingness to break bad habits. They have a lot of excuses and they talk like victims. Details thinking. I have to complete these urgent tasks first. Details are like excuses. They will always give you license for not getting started. Details thinking is necessary in devising an action plan for your goals. Without these steps, the goals will never be achieved. However, you can get so caught up in minute details that no action ever occurs. Overanalysis. I have to map out a plan before I begin. Like details thinking, overanalyzing stalls action and nothing productive gets done. Author Rebecca Jane said, "Overanalysis leads to paralysis." Perfectionism. This has to be perfect. What if I make a mistake? Perfectionists procrastinate because they are afraid of making mistakes. They waste time and throw out products and ideas which would have been just fine because in their minds, the idea or plan or product wasn't perfect. Perfectionists are hard on themselves and others who must live or work with them. Martha Stewart and Steve Jobs have been criticized for being too perfectionistic. Ariana Huffington advises parents, the fastest way to break the cycle of perfectionism and become a fearless mother is to give up the idea of doing it perfectly, indeed to embrace uncertainty and imperfection. Fear. I'm afraid to try something unorthodox. It is a scary thing to go upstream against the tide of conformity. You might be judged harshly. You might fail and make a fool of yourself. But nothing new ever evolved from conformity. The risk-takers of the world made all the startling breakthroughs. As musician and bandleader Les Brown pointed out, too many of us are not living our dreams because we are living our fears. No incentive. Why should I risk my job, reputation, social standing to try something unproven? We live in a results-oriented society. If there isn't a prize, a promotion, or money involved, many people are reluctant to expend energy on something. But as Muhammad Yunus notes, every incentive should not be tangible. He states, making money is a happiness. And that's a great incentive. Making other people happy is a super happiness. In our concrete, results-oriented thinking, we often overlook the great intangible rewards involved in doing things for others. Seeing the big picture is about making grand goals, big dreams and high hopes that people aspire to in every stage and aspect of their lives. How can you grasp and retain the big picture? What does it take? Getting your priorities correct. Getting your priorities right is all about making intelligent choices. It involves deciding which goals to pursue and in which order to pursue them. It requires vision and foresight. Intelligent people rise over today's obstructions and gaze over the hills and the valleys of the future. They see the invisible and the challenges it presents. Legendary entrepreneurs like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and Mark Zuckerberg possess such vision and foresight that they were able to see how technology could change the lives of us all. Then they created products and services that will turn their vision into reality. Before we can get our priorities straight, we need to know what our priorities actually are. How do we set priorities?